They told you cheap RV living was still possible. Just buy an older rig, stay on public land, cook your own meals, and live free. But in 2026, that story is getting people wrecked financially, mentally, and sometimes legally. Fuel is uneven, campgrounds are pricing like hotels, cities are cracking down, and the rigs everyone bought a few years ago are falling apart at the worst possible time. If you're thinking about doing cheap RV living in 2026, these 10 painful truths can save you from the most common traps. This isn't to scare you, it's to keep you from getting blindsided. Let's get rolling. Truth number 1. Cheap RV living isn't cheap everywhere anymore, and the map will punish you. People still talk like fuel is one national price. It isn't. In 2026, you can drive a few hundred miles and your fuel budget can get cut in half or doubled without warning. Regular gas can feel reasonable in one region, then you cross a line and you're paying premium prices for regular fuel. If you're towing, running a big gas motorhome, or driving a diesel, your entire month can be decided by geography. That's the painful part. You don't get freedom, you get fuel locked. You plan your life around where moving is affordable. A lot of rigs still average 8 to 12 miles per gallon. Some do worse. Now do the math. A simple 1,000-mile move at 10 miles per gallon is 100 gallons. If fuel is $3, that's $300. If it's $4, that's $400. If you're paying more than $4, you feel it instantly. And it's not just travel days. It's grocery runs, dump runs, water runs, propane runs. Every quick trip becomes expensive when you're in a heavy vehicle that drinks fuel like it's free. Cheap RV living in 2026 means you have to think like a logistics manager. The old mindset of "we'll just wander" is how people end up stressed and broke by week 3. Truth number 2. Campground inflation has created a new minimum cost to exist legally. Here's the reality no one wants to say out loud. In 2026, the cheapest part of RV living is often the RV. The expensive part is having permission to exist. Campgrounds are crowded. Popular areas sell out months ahead. The days of rolling in at 5 p.m. and grabbing a spot are gone in many regions, especially during peak seasons. And prices have climbed hard. Basic sites that used to feel affordable now range from okay to "are you serious?" depending on where you are. Full hookups in high-demand areas can cost as much as a hotel room. Monthly rates can mirror rent. That's the trap. You start RV living because you want to cut housing costs, and then you realize the safe, legal, predictable version of RV living can cost the same as an apartment, sometimes more, because you're paying for the spot, plus the rig, plus the moving costs. So what do budget RVers do? They try to avoid paid campgrounds. And that's where it gets painful, because avoiding campgrounds isn't just free camping. It requires your rig to be built for it. If you don't have large tanks, a reliable power system, and a plan for water and waste, then free camping turns into constant runs and constant stress. In 2026, the floor is rising. Even if you're trying to live cheap, the baseline cost of staying somewhere legally, safely, and consistently is higher than people expect. Truth number 3. Cities are criminalizing RV living, and you can't blend in like you used to. A lot of people think they'll do the stealth thing. Park quietly, be respectful, keep it clean, move around. And they assume that'll be enough. In 2026, in a lot of places, it isn't. More cities and counties are tightening enforcement. They're separating travel parking from habitation. And if they decide you're living there, you're a target. Some places require access to toilets. Some require trash service. Some treat any overnight habitation as a violation, even if you're not causing problems. And here's the painful part. Even if you're doing everything right, you can still get forced out, because enforcement isn't always about you. It's about public pressure, politics, and cleanup policies. So you end up living in what I call legal precarity, always watching, always moving, always wondering if the knock is coming tonight. That stress is real. It affects your sleep. It affects your mental health. It affects your ability to work. And it pushes people into riskier situations, like isolated spots with no services or sketchy industrial areas, because they're trying to avoid attention. Cheap RV living in 2026 often means your housing stability depends on local rules you don't control and can't predict. And that's not freedom. That's survival mode. Truth number 4. The RV repair system is overloaded, and one breakdown can delete your entire budget. This one hurts the most because it's not theoretical. If you live in your RV full-time, your home is also your vehicle. So when it breaks, you don't just have a repair, you have a housing crisis. The repair world in 2026 is backed up. Many shops have long wait times, parts delays still happen, and labor is expensive. Even small problems can snowball. A roof leak isn't a little leak. It's mold, rot, wall damage, insulation damage, and a repair bill that can grow every time it rains. A slide issue isn't annoying. It can trap you where you are or force you to travel with your house half broken. And here's what most new budget RVers don't understand. When the shop says, "We can fit you in next month," where do you live until then? If you don't have a plan, you end up paying premium campground rates, short-term rentals, hotels, or you're bouncing between parking spots praying you don't get moved along. That can destroy your savings in days. This is why experienced RVers keep an emergency fund, not a nice-to-have, a real fund, because a single bad week can cost more than a year of saving money on rent. Truth number 5. Cheap lithium and cheap solar setups can fail at the worst time, and cold weather can brick your power. Off-grid power is one of the biggest reasons people think they can live cheap. I'll just do solar, I'll just get lithium, I'll boondock and save. But in 2026, power systems are a money trap if you buy the wrong gear or underestimate the environment. Lithium iron phosphate batteries are great, but they have a hard rule people ignore. Charging below freezing can damage them. Not maybe, it can cause permanent problems, especially with budget batteries that don't have strong low temperature protection. Here's the nightmare scenario. You wake up on a cold morning. Your solar controller starts charging automatically as soon as the sun hits. Your batteries are still below freezing. And if your system doesn't block charging, you can ruin thousands of dollars of batteries without even touching a switch. Then people learn the next painful part. To make lithium reliable year-round, you may need heated batteries, insulation, a heated compartment, and compatible charging gear. Sometimes a new converter, sometimes a DC to DC charger, sometimes a better solar controller, sometimes all of it. So your cheap boondocking system turns into a multi-thousand-dollar conversion. And if you don't do it, you end up living with constant power anxiety, especially in winter. Truth number 6. Insurance is getting stricter about full-time living, and the wrong policy can leave you with nothing. A lot of people still play the old game. They buy a policy meant for recreational use, then they live in the rig full-time and hope it's fine. In 2026, this is a dangerous gamble. Insurance companies have gotten smarter about risk. Claims are expensive, repair costs are high, and if they believe you misrepresented how you use your RV, they can deny a claim. That's the painful truth. You can pay every month, feel protected, and still lose everything if the policy doesn't match your real life. Full-time coverage is often more expensive because it includes things you actually need, like personal liability and emergency expense coverage if your rig becomes unlivable. But the budget shock is real. People underestimate it because they're comparing it to basic recreational policies. And then there's location risk. If you're in high-risk areas for theft, storms, wildfire, or flooding, rates can jump. Some people get priced out. Others get coverage with exclusions they don't notice until it's too late. Cheap RV living in 2026 means you have to treat insurance like a critical system, not an afterthought, because one fire, one crash, one storm, and the cheap lifestyle can end in one phone call. Truth number 7. Internet is no longer optional, and staying connected adds a real monthly tax. Even if you're not working remotely, life in 2026 runs through the internet. Banking, appointments, insurance, maps, work opportunities, family, everything. And in RV life, connectivity is unstable. Campground Wi-Fi is still usually overloaded. Cellular can be great one day and useless the next depending on terrain, towers, and congestion. Remote areas can be dead zones. And even in towns, speeds drop when everyone is online. So most full-timers end up building a setup, a router, a hotspot, a booster, maybe multiple carriers. And for a lot of people, satellite internet becomes the last resort that turns into the main plan. That's the connectivity tax, hardware plus monthly service. And there's another hidden cost people miss: Power draw. If you're running internet all day, plus a laptop, plus fans, plus a fridge, suddenly your battery system has to be bigger. Bigger system means more cost, more complexity, more things to fail. So even when you're trying to live cheap, you can't ignore digital life. The modern world forces you to pay to stay connected, and RV life makes it harder and more expensive than living in a house. Truth number 8. Public land boondocking is being managed harder, and free is getting crowded, regulated, and noisy. A lot of people's whole plan is this: we'll just boondock on public land. Boondocking can still be amazing. It can still save money, but in 2026, the experience is changing. More people are doing it. That means popular areas get crowded, trash becomes an issue, human waste becomes an issue, fires become an issue, and when that happens, restrictions follow. You see more stay limits enforced, more closures, more barriers, more no overnight parking signs, more permit systems in certain areas, more pressure to keep moving. Even when you find a free spot, it's not free to operate. You need water, you need a dump plan, you need propane or power, you need to manage waste correctly. Dump fees add up, water runs add up, fuel to relocate adds up. And the most painful part is this: when boondocking gets crowded, the quiet, peaceful, safe version disappears. You end up next to loud generators, late-night music, off-road traffic, and people who don't respect the space. That's when the dream starts to feel like a parking lot with a view. Truth number 9. Winter will humble you, and heating costs can destroy your budget in days. If you've never wintered in the budget rig, you don't understand how fast it can get expensive. Most entry-level RVs are not built like houses. Thin insulation, drafty seals, single-pane windows, exposed plumbing. That means you're constantly losing heat. In real cold, propane disappears fast. A standard tank that feels like it should last forever can be empty in a few days if your furnace runs hard. And when you refill, you realize heating isn't a small expense. It's a monthly budget category. Then people try to save money with electric heaters. That can help if you're on shore power, but it can also backfire if your electricity is metered on a monthly stay, or if your rig can't safely handle multiple heaters without tripping breakers, or if you're off-grid and your batteries can't keep up. Some people switch to diesel heaters because they can be efficient and cheaper to run in certain setups, but even that requires installation, maintenance, and a fuel plan. Nothing is simple. The deepest pain is thermal debt. That's what happens when your rig leaks heat faster than your system can replace it. You wake up cold, you chase condensation, you wipe windows, you fight mold, you worry about frozen lines, and you realize winter living in a cheap RV is not cozy. It's a daily battle. Truth number 10. The cheapest rigs can become the most expensive because depreciation and obsolescence don't care about your budget. This is where people get trapped. They buy an older RV because it's cheap up front, and sometimes that works. But in 2026, older rigs can be a liability if they need major upgrades to meet modern reality. Power demands are higher now. People run more devices, they need reliable internet, they need better batteries, they want induction cooking, they want to work remotely. Older rigs weren't built for that without upgrades. So you buy cheap, then you spend thousands on electrical work, batteries, solar, inverters, chargers, wiring, and safety gear. Then you discover plumbing issues, roof issues, slide issues, soft floors, delamination, and the cheap rig turns into a slow-motion financial leak. On the other side, newer rigs have their own pain. Rapid depreciation, sometimes questionable build quality, and high replacement costs when anything fails. The real trap is financing. People finance long terms on something that loses value fast. Then if life changes, they can't sell without taking a big hit. They're upside down.
That's how you end up stuck with a rig you can't afford to keep and can't afford to get rid of. In 2026, the smartest budget move often isn't cheapest purchase price, it's lowest total cost of ownership. And that requires brutal honesty about what you'll spend to make the rig livable for the way you actually live. Now, let's bring it all together. Cheap RV living in 2026 is still possible, but it's not the simple romantic version people sell online. The truth is, the lifestyle has professionalized. You're managing fuel logistics, you're managing legal risk, you're managing maintenance debt, you're managing power systems, you're managing connectivity, you're managing weather, and you're doing it while living in a tiny moving box. If you want to make this work without getting crushed, you need three things. 1. A real budget with real categories: fuel, campgrounds, crackdowns, repairs, insurance, internet, propane, storage, and an emergency fund. 2. A systems mindset: water plan, waste plan, power plan, heat plan, connectivity plan. If any one of those collapses, your life gets hard fast. 3. A flexibility mindset, because in 2026, the people who survive aren't the ones who chase the perfect Instagram lifestyle. They're the ones who adapt when the rules, prices, weather, and repairs change overnight. So here's the question. Which of these truths hits you the hardest? Fuel, campgrounds, crackdowns, repairs, power, insurance, internet, public land, winter, or the rig itself? Drop a comment and tell me your situation. Are you thinking about RV life, already living it, or trying to get out of it? And if you want to avoid the biggest budget killers before you buy a rig or hit the road, don't miss the next video. Because the road can still be worth it, but only if you know what you're walking into. Hit like, subscribe, and let's keep rolling.